This podcast is made possible by Planful.
Hi, this is Rebecca Mahadeva, and I am the CFO at Greater Than One, and you are listening to the CFO Thought Leadership Podcast.
This is episode 835.
To measure and customer profitability. So, we can use that ARR now for these customers. We can look at the number of service incidents that they have had. We can measure some of the other direct costs associated with them, get to a measure of profitability for them, and help us understand if we are pricing everything right, or if something went astray. Did we do something wrong on the service delivery side? It's been very eye-opening and important.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's show, we speak with Andy Gehrlein, CFO of Park Place Technologies. When Andy Gehrlein is asked about the experiences that prepared him for a finance leadership role, 1 week from his 25-year career climb quickly comes to mind. Back in 2008, Gehrlein was a controller with ERICO International Corp, a manufacturer of specialized electrical components, engineered to better foster a building's safety. Construction companies depended on ERICO products to ensure the safety and integrity of their buildings. The same buildings that were now quickly being put in a holding pattern as the economic downturn began to grab headlines. Gehrlein soon found himself sequestered in a conference room alongside the company's CFO as they together pored over the company's recent budgets and forecasts. It was from that place in time that CFO Gehrlein says he learned that no matter what a company might face, if you have the data and you understand your business, you can apply a thoughtful response to whatever the situation might be. We speak to CFO Andy Gehrlein after this. With so much change around us and your need for increasing agility, you have to equip your team to win, and you have to do it now. Join over 1,300 companies of all sizes using Planful to help plan and execute with greater confidence. Planful integrates your critical financial processes to serve the data you need, insights you demand, and the answers necessary to manage your business optimally. Planful lets you plan better, close faster, and report more accurately. And Planful's not just for finance and accounting. It's for the entire business to plan, collaborate, and drive increased financial performance. Take full control of how you administer and manage all of your financial processes and data. And put finance first collaboration at the heart of every decision. When finance is a team sport, you can be a champion. With Planful, you'll be a champion of finance. Get in the game by going to planful.com to learn more. Hi, we're speaking with Andy Gehrlein, CFO of Park Place Technologies. Andy, welcome.
Good morning, Jack.
Andy, we'd love to have you look back for us. As always, we begin asking our guests, prodding them to look back in time and to identify some of those experiences you feel prepared you for this role, the CFO role. What would come to mind for you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that, Jack. So if I kind of look back in my career and how I got to this CFO position, I really started my career in public accounting at one of the big four firms, Ernst & Young. I worked there for about 6 years through the manager level. And, I thought then, and I still think today, just public accounting is just a phenomenal place to begin a career. I always advocated to students that you just learn so much about industry and business and working with people at all levels and different industries frankly, I have a son. I have 3 kids, and my youngest is studying accounting. He's a sophomore right now. So I think it's a great place to start. After I left public accounting, I joined one of my clients. I left because I really wanted to have an ability to influence and lead, as a member of a management team, and I knew I wanted to be a CFO. I left to join as a controller of a company called ERICO International Corporation. Really neat company, more than 100 years old, privately held, management team owned company that was headquartered here in Cleveland. I ultimately was there for 11 years, the first 7 as controller and the last 4 as CFO. And again, learned many things here that helped me in my journey to become CFO. Some of them I was so impressed with the level of knowledge that the CEO and the CFO had about the business. They just seemed to know everything, and it just inspired me to really want to dig in and understand everything about the company. And that was really helpful, although I had another spot in between there and where I'm at now. That really helped me when I joined Park Place Technologies, which is a technology company. I had really been in the manufacturing industry my entire career up until Park Place. And, although a lot of the general business principles are the same, there are certainly some, industry unique experiences that just trying to dig in and learn everything about the place has been very helpful for me in joining Park Place.
Well, interesting. I want to point out too, I think it's always worth mentioning, you built your career, it looks like, from the outside, in the state of Ohio.
That's exactly
It's not
correct.
like you transferred down to Texas or Florida, but you have found gainful advancement in that geography. You mentioned it was manufacturing at first. One of the things is that you gravitated into a much broader role over time, and you're not just an accountant and controller. Was there a particular project or something you became involved in? Maybe it was a merger or acquisition that you recall, expanding your horizons more into the planning and financial analysis experience, or what was there?
Yeah, Jack. So I do recall one of the projects I worked on back at ERICO. So this was the company I joined when I left public. So I was there from let me think of my exact years here, 2004 through 2015. And so I was there during the recession of 2008 and 9. And that was really the first time I had worked in a recession. And ERICO was a high performing company, just a great company. But like many companies, we faced some challenges when we headed into that recession.
But that's can you tell us something more about the company? High performing. I have no idea what this company is.
So ERICO was a company that made highly engineered parts for the commercial construction industry, electrical, mechanical, and concrete fastening applications. So it's things we used to always say would be in ceilings or walls or floors of buildings. And they were small pieces. They were a small part of the overall budget of a construction project, but they were highly engineered. You used us for the safety and ensuring the safety and integrity of your buildings. And as a result, we commanded premium margins in the manufacturing industry. But heading into 8 and 9 in that recession, right? Construction certainly didn't stop, but slowed down. And so we saw a pause in our work, in our business. And so I remember spending about a week or so with the CFO, just holed up in a room, as I was the controller then, a week with the CFO, just poring over the numbers and really seeing the insight that he and the CEO had and the understanding of the business, using our budgets, using just all the detailed information we had available to us, using our FP&A group to do separate analyses on different alternatives, and coming back with a plan that enabled us to really survive and ultimately thrive during that time frame.
Certainly a cash management piece to that, I would imagine, or
most certainly. Everywhere I've been, we've had to, they always say cash is king. We certainly say it here. We had to ensure that we were managing our cash. We did it in a way that we did not have any layoffs of employees, which was great. That's something at Park Place we've never done either. Just managing cash, yes, has been, extremely important everywhere I've
So
been.
as you described for us, you were there quite some time, and that's not uncommon. We see that very often. Finance leaders really do make an investment with one or two companies along the way where they spend a good deal of their early career to mid-career. Along the way, I mean, there must have been recruiters who came along and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity for you over here. Think about it. Think about it." You thought about it and you stayed. What was when those opportunities came forward? What kept you there as long as you were?
Yeah, great question. And it's one of the big lessons in my career and it's also very fortunately a similarity with Park Place where I'm at now. And that is the value of equity ownership within the company. Many companies restrict the participation in some sort of equity program to a very small group of people, the C-suite people, for example. At ERICO and at Park Place, we have a philosophy which is let's include, a broader group. Let's have the managers who are making, day-to-day, decisions, leading certain functions, growing the business in certain targeted areas. Let's include them and treat them like an owner. They will make smarter decisions, better decisions, think more of for the long term. And again, really everywhere I've been after leaving public, I had some type of equity participation, and it was those opportunities combined with just interesting companies and great people that really led me to stay.
Was there a time perhaps at ERICO where uh, you recall the first time you were asked to present to perhaps the board or a very senior level meeting, a challenge to your communication and presentation skills? Something, again, accountants and controllers, as they come up the ranks, it's usually an important memory that they have, like, oh, yeah, I was put on the spot there and I had to step up. Anything like that come to mind?
Well, certainly it was, probably that ERICO was the first place where I was attending board meetings and presenting to the board. We had debt financing, so we also had quarterly update meetings with our lenders. Again, I do that here with Park Place. I just got off of a call with our lenders last week on our second quarter results. We have quarterly board meetings. So yes, I do recall being, very nervous for those first meetings. It's something you just really prepare for and practice and plan out. And I still do the same thing today. I'm much more comfortable doing it now, having done it for 20 plus years. But you still certainly want to have your thoughts down, guideline for your talking points, and prepare and practice. That's just part of being successful.
Okay. Well, we might have a few more career related questions for you during the mentoring round, but right now, let's find out about Park Place Technologies. What does this company do? What are its offerings today?
Yeah, great. So we like to say Park Place is a leading global data center and networking optimization firm. That's a bit of some words. What that actually means is we provide various services. Where we started and still the biggest today is we provide third-party data center hardware maintenance for generally equipment at off-premise data center locations. In addition to that, we provide professional services, software and infrastructure managed services, network performance monitoring, and we also have a business that sells refurbished hardware. We are pretty unique in the industry that we have that large breadth of products. We have sustainability focused and a fully integrated approach that we've tagged DMSO, which stands for Discover, Monitor, Support, and Optimize, where we can, again, monitor customers' equipment, measure how it is performing. If and when it isn't performing up to speed, or if it happens to fail, we then can come in and repair it, replace it, optimize it. We, by far, are the world's largest at this, Jack. We are more than 2,000 employees across the world. We have about 22,000 customers in over 107 countries. And we have 24/7 by 365 follow the sun service, for all of our customers around the world.
Now, you arrive in 2020, and this company's been somewhat acquisitive, or is M&A part of its makeup?
We've been very acquisitive, Jack. So we've been around since 1991, so 30 plus years. In our recent time frame, so I've been here for 2.5. In just the last 5 years alone, we've completed 22 acquisitions. So we have grown both, tremendously via organic growth, but also, very significantly through acquisitions as well.
From your past experience, I don't know if this is a very acquisitive company. You step into this role. Where are you getting your M&A accelerating smarts from? How did you adjust to this environment that's one acquisition after another?
So we just have a great model and team focused on acquisitions. We have a VP of M&A. We have within that team, when that also really blends into my finance team, where we have a great practice for identifying and diligencing opportunities, identifying what that will mean for our business in terms of growth and synergy opportunities. We have a great legal team to help execute the deal. And then we have just an integrated across the company integration team where we will, basically we have core dedicated M&A specialists who help on integrations. And then we will also pull experts from the respective functions as needed to work it through. It's really a business model that our CEO, Chris Adams, helped build. It's worked very well for us.
Certain acquisitions seem to be getting traction quicker, easier. And I guess I'm referring to the integration of certain companies into this one culture. How do you keep a read on that, given the number of different organizations being integrated into Park Place?
Yeah, so it varies by the type and size of acquisition. In the tail end of 2020, in November, we bought and closed on an acquisition of our most significant competitor. We effectively doubled in size at the tail end of 2020. That was a transformational acquisition for the company. And that included, in addition to the normal teams, we did utilize some outside assistance to help us from a PMO perspective. We just really ramped up our internal team focused on the integration. We attempted to make we did make very quick decisions in terms of the various people and the roles they would play, because uncertainty by employees in an acquisition is really one of the biggest things that can help kill a deal. So we acted very quickly in making our decisions and communicating those decisions and rolling them out. And we just stayed on task between our internal and external groups working this, frequent meetings, Gantt charts and targets for where we needed to be. And if we ever came off track, we course corrected and got back on track. And we really ended up finishing that integration earlier than planned and with really more synergies than initially identified.
Just curious about the technology piece of this. This clearly is a technology company, but with every acquisition, they might have a different platform than you. So early on in the evolution of this company, there was perhaps some decisions made, and I'm thinking like, wow, they must have determined which platform would play nice with as you look to grow. Otherwise, you'd be making hard choices all the time about which ones to forfeit, which ones to keep, which ones to integrate, which ones to get rid of. Am I describing something that's part of your world or not really?
You are, Jack, yes. And it really also gets back to, we want to be one company with these acquisitions. And so if we were to continue to operate on multiple ERPs or multiple service delivery systems in our world, that really would prevent us from being one company. So we did make decisions early on in terms of which software systems we should go with. We do convert the acquired companies to our systems. Now, it doesn't mean they're perfect. We still have some big projects we're working on to upgrade some of those systems, but in many respects, they're to newer versions, with more options and features today as we just upgrade the overall infrastructure of our company. But yes, getting to one system is a key element of our integration approach.
Curious about your lines of sight into the organization and the numbers that you're paying close attention to. I would imagine some of them might be tied to the M&A activity and the integration of the company. But let me just ask, what are the numbers you're looking at before your first cup of coffee in the morning? What are those top of mind numbers for you?
Yeah, for us, we call it ARR, or annualized recurring revenue. So again, in this third party maintenance industry that we're in, basically our customers sign up for a subscription contract. They pay a certain amount per month per asset that we cover. And so, annualized recurring revenue is the big measure of how much revenue we have as a company, how that is growing. And so when I joined the company 2.5 years ago, we would not know what the ARR was for a month until about 2.5 weeks after the month was over, when we finalized all the bookings for the month, when we looked at any potential revenue attrition. And due to some great efforts of our IT team, our revenue team within our accounting group, our FP&A team, we've been able to build really a dashboard that literally is the first thing I do. When I walk in the morning, power up the computer, I look at the ARR dashboard, which tells me what is the number as of this morning, what started in terms of new assets and bookings yesterday, any potential drops from price changes, decreases, or if a customer dropped an asset for some reason. It just gives us great insight and visibility to how that leading indicator of our business is tracking.
As you improve your lines of sight, as you described somewhat to us, has there been another business dynamic, something that hadn't perhaps been traditionally measured, that you can now see? Very often it's tied to the customer experience because, again, I think lines of sight for many finance, particularly recurring revenue businesses, can see deeper into those relationships than ever before. But I'm wondering if there's something new that you're measuring. It might not be, finance tied, clearly. I guess a non-financial metric. Anything come to mind?
Well, yeah, and it may seem basic, but to be able to do it, it requires a lot of effort, and that is to measure and attempt to measure customer profitability. So, we can use that ARR now for these customers. We can look at the number of service incidents that they have had. We can measure some of the other direct costs associated with them, and get to a measure of profitability for them, and help us understand if we are pricing everything right, or if something went astray. Did we do something wrong on the service delivery side? It's been very eye-opening and important to also look at that, marrying up, in essence, the customer profitability with the ARR.
So I want to just interesting, a couple of things. I think you said you arrived about 2.5 years ago. So I think either the pandemic was just arriving or you arrived just before we all knew what was happening. And then you do this giant acquisition during 2020 as well. And of course, just looking back 2 years ago, there was so much uncertainty. But for a finance leader to step into the role at that place and time and experience all of what you did, I imagine part of the workforce went remote and all of what was happening. Probably one of the more memorable years of your finance career. Am I understating that?
Yeah, very, very for sure, Jack. I started at Park Place in May of 2020. My interview process with the company and the board was all virtual. When I started at a time when the company was on a work from home arrangement. There was a small group of managers who was coming in. Our prior CFO retired, and I had the great assistance from him in transitioning into the company. So he and I hunkered down in a room together, and he introduced me to the company. Took a while to meet a lot of people in person as we worked through that. But yes, it was a very very interesting and unique time to start in new company and new industry.
This industry, there are other players like yours that are highly acquisitive. There's just a lot of M&A activity inside this industry at this place in time. I'm not overstating that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the nature of it, right? These businesses are growing very, very quickly. You're curious about your, as far as talent is concerned, your sort of talent mindset. Again, stepping into 2,000 employee company, new organizations being integrated, employees during COVID. There was just so much here. I would imagine that more so than your past experiences as a finance leader, talent and people issues have become more top of mind. What would you share with us?
I would definitely agree with that. Right. At the end of the day, we don't really manufacture a tangible product. Right. Our product are the services of our people. It can be the field engineers that drive out to a data center site to fix and maintain the assets. It can be our IT developers that help build our internal use software and the other software that we provide services to customers with. Our engineers in our enterprise operations center or our advanced engineering group, they're helping triage and deal with customers' problems. So yes, people are our most important assets, and measuring them and their efficiency and effectiveness. We deal with CSAT scores, as a lot of companies do. We have some unique measures specific to each of the individual functions to try to ensure that we are staffing at the right levels and then delivering the right service to the customer. So extremely important, Jack.
The companies that you acquire, have they always had the same sort of philosophy about remote versus in office going forward? I don't know what Park Place's sensibility is on those issues, and the nature of the business might dictate a certain path more than other industries. But it would seem to me it would be somewhat challenging if you have a company that's more remote that you're marrying, and now you have to sort of come forward with a mantra of, nope, here's how we do it. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've managed these different integrations of companies that workforces might have different remote philosophies or talent philosophies?
Sure. Well, when we look at our engineers who are on site, even throughout the pandemic, we were deemed a necessary business. So our field engineers were working, day and night, throughout the heart of the pandemic, still servicing our customers. We had hero pay, we called it, where we actually gave them some additional, bonus dollars to reward them for going out, when there was so much uncertainty at that point in time. Today we have officially a 4-1, 4 days in, 1 day flexible by employee choice option to work from home. We're, as many companies are, we're just big believers in collaboration. You get back to the people and the talent we talked about earlier. So much of our ideas and insights and ability to integrate those companies, is related to our culture. And so we want people in the office to be a part of that culture. And yes, some of the acquired companies have had different schedules, and we work with them to adjust to our schedule, just because we believe it's so important to have that culture.
I want to just talk to you a little bit about FP&A and the team that you've fielded there. I would imagine some of the FP&A team is involved in the acquisitions and in number of different ways. But I like to ask the question this way to try to get to the meat of things. Some of your top FP&A professionals within the company are in a conference room down the hall, and Andy swings open the door. What do they think Andy's about to ask them about?
Wow, probably has something to do with ARR and its various elements again, bookings and revenue attrition we talked about earlier, because that really is the leading indicator for our business.
Can you be more specific? Can you be more specific with us? Something that those FP&A people are all going to say, "Yep, that's what Andy would want." Nothing to if I press you here a little more.
Yeah, so when I have that first cup of coffee and I look at that dashboard, I will ask very specific questions about that change in ARR. There's a decrease showing for this customer. What happened? Is that right? Let's go dive into that and figure it out. Let's go talk to the renewals team to ensure, did we get it right?
So you're actually you're almost customer specific is what you're saying. You're saying, wow, how did that happen? Is that an anomaly, or is there something bigger that could be happening here that we need to really understand better? So they would take the time to really take a look at a single customer to understand the dynamic that's unfolding.
That they would. That is correct. I mean, so we have visibility into the future as to when contracts and customers are up for renewal. We have an expectation as to what will happen. We track it throughout its progress. So I usually know if something good or bad is going to happen. But if I see a surprise that pops up on that dashboard, then we are able to identify to the customer. Then the team they get an email from me right away. Let's go figure out what happened.
The largest, the part of the pie that the largest customers occupy, perhaps a third of the pie. I don't know the breakout, but I'm just thinking, well, you can't do that for every customer. Examining these individual customers to understand their behaviors better. I mean, is that really? It seems to me like it could also be a waste of time because given how many customers you have, wow, you just can't do that. You just can't drill down on each of them. So you choose the largest ones perhaps to really get a sense of what's happening or no.
Most definitely, Jack. Everything I look at's in descending dollar order, right? We do focus on the larger customer events that occur.
At the same time, suddenly you could detect attrition across your smaller customers at a much higher rate, I would imagine, and that would draw your attention as well.
Sure, we break these things down into the different reason codes or events that occurred. On the positive side, the booking side, we break it down into the geographies, the groups. We have a territory group and an enterprise group that focuses on Fortune 500 style size companies. We can break it down at the individual rep level, and again, it's all about identifying trends in the business and understanding what's driving them, and if they're good, how do we do more of it? If they're bad, how do we correct it?
Well, we want to jump to our finance strategic moment question, where we're just asking for one moment of insight that you've experienced along the way in your career. And we know there's been so many, but we want you to just choose one for us. We'd like to sort of highlight how finance plays a strategic role in business. And we've come up with this one put you on the spot type question. Anything come to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Yeah, and I sort of touched on it earlier, Jack, and it was really back to that the overall theme of having the data, understanding the business, being able to apply that to whatever situation you have facing you going forward. That just really stuck with me. I do recall one time I remember this, like the CEO just pulling me aside and saying, "Andy, words matter." And it was very specific about choose your words, what you say, how you say them very carefully based upon the audience you are delivering the message to. And I remember he would go prior to a board meeting, he would go sit in a room for 48 hours and plot out exactly what message he wanted to deliver to that board and how to say it. And he would just always counsel us to do something to that effect.
Hey, it's Jack. I hope you're enjoying our discussion with Andy Gehrlein. Andy's comments regarding how words matter made me think of a book recommendation. The title of the book is Jacked Up, the inside story of how Jack Welch talk GE into becoming the world's greatest company. If you don't like Jack Welch, you're gonna enjoy this book. If you like Jack Welch, you're gonna enjoy this book. Bill Lane is the author. I think he died just a few years ago, but he was Jack Welch's speechwriter, and he helped write the annual letter to shareholders. Great insight into being a wordsmith, as well as how seriously Jack Welch took executive communications, not unlike what Andy described how his CEO secluded himself, stepped into a conference room for 48 hours before he talked to the board. Welch was known to do the same thing. But just some really terrific insight into executive communications, the temperament of Jack Welch, and just a really enjoyable read. Again, it's called Jacked Up. It came out in 2007. I think its title is a little silly, and it maybe never got the notoriety I think it deserves. We'll now return to our interview with Andy Gehrlein. We're going to jump to our mentoring round. We're going to ask you several quick questions intended to inspire and inform future finance leaders. We want to take you back to the first time you stepped into a CFO role. And I know you had one before Park Place. We want you to think about the first 60 days, first 90 days you had that role, when all the responsibilities of the finance leadership fell on your shoulders for the first time. Is there a piece of advice you would go back in time and give yourself? What would it be if you could tell yourself that first 60 days? What would it be?
Yeah, I'd say make sure you've got the right team, right? You really want to ensure that you've got a high performing team. At all levels. You need to have 2 to 3 really strong performers at your maybe your direct report level, and a very solid group underneath them. And if you don't have that right team, then you need to tweak it until you get to the right place. Fortunately, at Park Place, I've got a phenomenal team. I've got those strong people. Didn't really need to make too many changes when I came in. Just kind of moved a few pieces around, but it's worked out really well. And just having that really right, strong group of people is so vitally important.
Curious if there was a recruiter when you leave.
I was at Valtris prior to Park Place, and yes, there was a recruiter.
And they brought you to Park Place. Was there a recruiter from ERICO?
There was joining ERICO was through a recruiter, yes. Leaving ERICO was because we sold the company in a pretty successful transaction. So as the CFO, I was, the day the deal closed, they said, "Thank you very much. Thanks for working hard. We already have a CFO. We don't need you." And work through the end of the year, then in a transition phase.
It's a familiar story. We like to ask our guests to reflect a little bit on the personal side, to reveal something about themselves, either a personal habit, and we're really looking for something beyond the office. So please don't say you clear your desk off at the end of the night. Dale Carnegie would appreciate that, but we're looking for something that sets you apart as an individual. This might be something a family member, in fact, would tell us. That's Andy. That's what he does. And is there a part of a daily routine that you have, some habit that you have, something that sets you apart? What do you think? Anything?
Wow, setting me apart from the other CFOs, I don't know. I mean, what I was going to say, Jack, was similar to the desk, but it was the electronic version. It was the inbox. Like I go crazy when I have unread emails in there, and so just making sure I deal with those. One, it's my own mindset, but two, just responding back to whoever's sending me the email. I want to get them their answer, let them keep moving as fast as they can.
Okay, well, we're going to let you slide on that one. No, you know what? We'll give you a pass if you give us a good book recommendation. Would you have one for us?
Honestly, I read mostly fiction for my enjoyment. I spend so much time here at work, so I usually rely upon recommendations from others as well. And a really good book that our CEO recommended, I think it came out a couple years ago. It's called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. It's really written by 2 Navy SEALs, and they just do a fantastic job of relating battlefield stories to real business experiences. And it's ultimately about making sure, you as a leader understand and own the outcome and everything that affects it. And we've been sharing it internally and providing them to even summer interns who came in this year and to our management team. It's a really interesting book.
Excellent. We haven't had it before, so we're always excited to get a new one. Thank you for that. And we're finally at our last question, which is to ask you to look forward the next 12 months and tell us what your priorities are as CFO of Park Place for the next 12 months. What would those be?
Yeah, so growing the business like we all want to do, but within that, we really have some very finance focused projects of implementing and upgrading a lot of these internal systems that we're using. We're rolling out a new CPQ, configure price quote system. We're upgrading our service and ticketing system. So there's cross-functional teams, IT, finance, and the respective functions of the business rolling these out. So that's a big part of our focus for next year.
Andy Gehrlein, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
You're very welcome, Jack. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hello, listeners. Do us a favor. Be certain to subscribe to CFO Thought Leader on Apple Podcasts, or if you're an Android user, check us out on Spotify or Google Play. If you like the show, please recommend it to a friend.